creatine is only for gym bros. That's another one of my favorite myths. No, I have my parents taking it. It's not gym bros. This isn't like the guy at the gym grunting, dropping all the weights and staring at his biceps in the mirror all day. It's not just for that guy. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Energetically Efficient Show. I am Kristen Rowell, and I'm so excited to bring you today's topic because today we are talking about one of my favorite supplements, which is creatine, okay? Unless you've been living under a rock, you have heard all of the things about creatine over the last several years. So I want to tell you my personal story and why I recommend creatine to clients and then what the science says about it. Remember, one of my goals with this channel is to make stuff as simple as possible for you so you can make an informed decision about your physical and energetic health, okay? So I'm going to tell you what creatine I take. I'm going to tell you why I take creatine. I'm going to tell you about the experiment that I did with creatine, which is over a 3-month period way back in 2021, and bring you along on this journey just so you can decide whether creatine is something that you want to take. Okay, so backing up to me, way back in the days where I started bodybuilding. My first bodybuilding show was in 2017, and I never took creatine. My next bodybuilding shows that I did in 2018 and actually got my pro card, that's when I became a pro bodybuilder, never took creatine. Fast forward to 2021, I do a show after COVID. Nope, didn't take creatine. And I was like, wait a second, that's when I started to kind of hear a lot about it. But up until that point, probably much like you, I thought creatine was like taking anabolic steroids. I was so uneducated about it and so misinformed. And there was this programming, I'll call it, because you guys know I talk about programming all the time. It's like when we start to dig under why we do what we do, why we buy what we buy, why we eat the way we eat, why we buy certain brands and labels, like really down at its base of it, you're going to find out that a lot of what you do and why you do it is programming. I talk about this all the time. Okay. And I'll do a full episode on programming at some point, but it is fascinating to me when we start to pay attention to it. Everything from what kind of laundry detergent you buy to what sort of brands of beans or soup you buy to what sort of things you pick out, other things at the grocery store, what kind of drinks you have, soda you purchase, whether you purchase soda, what kind of dog food you buy. So much of this, you guys, is programming. You don't even realize it. It's like if you have Tide laundry detergent, for example, you're programmed. There's nothing healthy about using Tide for your clothes. And you buy it because there's lots of it on the shelf at Target or wherever you shop, Walmart, wherever. You've seen commercials for it. You know it works to wash your clothes. So you're like, oh, so I would just buy Tide. You haven't researched it. You don't know what kind of toxic chemicals are in it. You haven't woken up to this yet. So trust me, I used it back in the day too. And then as you wake up and realize all this programming, you realize, oh my God, I haven't been living my life intentionally, and I want to start doing that. So thank you for being here, because that's what we do in this show. I teach you about living intentionally in all areas of your physical and energetic health. Okay, back to creatine. So back when I started bodybuilding, literally no clue about creatine, thought it was an anabolic steroid. There was a lot of hype about this, really in like the 80s or 90s. And so I think that's where creatine got such a bad rap, is it's almost like at the height of when we started hearing about professional athletes that were taking anabolic steroids, we were also hearing a lot about creatine. So I think they truly just got conflated. At least that's my working theory. And then the other thing that we heard a lot, and I do think this was true back in the 80s and 90s, if you took creatine, it was going to blow you up. It was going to make you like retain all this water. You were going to feel really puffy. And if you stopped taking creatine, then all of that would go away. Okay. So I've done some research on that because I was very curious about why the creatine back in the 80s and 90s would have been a compound that would have caused us to be maybe more bloated or maybe more inflamed. And I do think back then, at least from what I've researched, that there used to be like dextrose and other sugars or things added to creatine, which actually would cause you to retain water and it would make you feel somewhat inflamed. And they don't do that anymore, at least if it's a good positive brand of creatine. And of course, I'll give you some example. So going back to my journey with it, I finally decided in 2021, I'm like, that's it. I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to do 3 months. I'm going to try this creatine thing that everyone's talking about. And I'm going to do a DEXA scan at the beginning. And then I'm going to take creatine every single day for 3 months. And then I'm going to do a DEXA scan at the end. And you guys, my results were unbelievable. Okay. Unbelievable. Like even to me, I was surprised. And I'm someone who has been a competitive bodybuilder at that point for what, 4 or 5 years. And I still was surprised because I couldn't believe what an edge the creatine gave me in terms of my body composition. Okay, so that's coming. I don't want to spoil it yet. I just want to first tell you about what creatine is and how it works in your body, okay? And I have given presentations on creatine before, so you may see me at this part. Just look over at my notes because I just want to make sure I don't miss anything with respect to creatine. So if you're thinking about taking a supplement, these are all of the things that it could help you do, okay? Increase lean muscle mass. That was for sure true for me. Decrease your body fat. Also true for me. Better utilize your glucose. So this is a really important piece of creatine. So when we have glucose that we ingest in our body, remember that's carbs. We get glucose from carbs. Those go into our liver. They go into our skeletal muscle. And then after that, they go into our fat cells. And I've done a whole episode about this. So I want you to watch that episode if you want to learn more about that. Look up for the episode on how and why we get fat, essentially. Okay. So it's going to increase your insulin sensitivity, which is excellent because on the spectrum of insulin, if insulin sensitivity is over here and all the way type 2 diabetes is over here, we want to be this way, obviously. We want to be as insulin sensitive as possible, which means our body is sensitive to the input of insulin. It means that insulin isn't shooting out of our pancreas all day long. That's horrible. If you have insulin shooting out of your pancreas all day long, you are a fat storage machine, okay? We don't want to be a fat storage machine. We don't want insulin secreting out of our pancreas all day long. One surefire way to make sure you're always producing insulin all day long, which again, we don't want to do, is you would snack on carbs, empty carbs all day long. You would eat a handful of chips. You would eat some cookies. You would have things in the break room at work. You would eat that piece of cake that someone offered you. You would have a muffin for breakfast. You would eat a bagel for a snack. You would snack all day long. I don't like snacking at all. I hate this word snack. So if you are doing all of those things, that's going to make you more insulin resistant. Okay, so insulin resistance is a spectrum. Just quick teaching on this. Insulin resistance is a spectrum. Over here is insulin sensitive. And this gets more and more and more and more insulin resistant until you hit type 2 diabetes. Okay. We want to get you over here. So it makes you more insulin sensitive. That's one of the things creatine does. It also prevents sarcopenia. Now remember, sarcopenia is age-related muscle wasting. What I'm doing when I'm strength training a lot, I'm trying to retain this. It's not that I want to get bigger and bigger and bigger and more muscular. I have plenty of muscle. I'm aware of that. I'm not strength training to make my muscles get even bigger so I can turn into the Incredible Hulk. I'm strength training because we are fighting aging every single day. We're fighting this breakdown of muscle tissue that naturally happens with age unless you strength train. So the strength training I do is preventative maintenance for my health. It's what keeps me so fit and lean into my late 40s at almost 50 years old. Okay. It also, I'm just looking back at my notes here. Oh yes, it can improve your cognitive function. Okay, this is one of my favorite things about creatine. I have my parents taking creatine now in their 70s because it's so good for our brain. And I will share a paper underneath this video so you can read more about that because the research is absolutely incredible. It also can maintain and even build your bone density. So your bone density can get better when you take creatine, which is awesome. For sure gives you more energy. And I'll talk about how creatine gives you more energy when I help you understand how it actually works in your body. Like what is the actual mechanism of action of how creatine works. Okay. It also, oh yes, it reduces the buildup of fat in your liver. Because I researched all this, of course, before I gave my first talk on creatine. And that I was so excited about, like the fact that it's reducing fat in your liver. You guys, you realize we have an epidemic in this country of something called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. These are livers that are so dysfunctional and they're full of sugar and glucose because people just gnaw on the carbs all day long. And the saddest part to me is one of the fastest growing populations of humans who are getting NAFLD, which is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, are kids. And it just makes me so sad. When I see an obese child, I literally want to take the parents out back and like have such a talking to them because it's child abuse in my opinion. I'm sorry I said it. It just is. It's like you're setting the kid up for so much difficulty in their life by not optimizing their metabolic health when they're young. It just makes me horribly sad. So it's going to reduce the buildup of fat in your liver. It's also going to elevate your mood. That's one of the best things about creatine. That's why I take a scoop in the morning. So I love that it elevates my mood, help you ward off cancer. There's research about creatine, taking creatine and cancer prevention, which is incredible. Okay. So have I said anything yet that's going to cause you to not take creatine? I hope you're like, oh my God, Kristen, tell me what one I should buy and I'm on it. Okay. It also protects you from neurological disorders. So this is related to all of the brain health stuff. So it's going to be neurologically protective, and it's going to help lower your cholesterol and triglycerides, which is excellent. Triglycerides is probably my most favorite thing to talk about in terms of your lipid profile. I want your triglycerides number lower than 75, okay? Western medicine is going to tell you, we just want it under 150. We want it under 150. I want it at half that. So functional medicine, integrative medicine, the medicine that's more root cause analysis and what's actual health, instead of just treating illness and dis-ease, wants your triglycerides under 75. So mine are typically in the 40s or 50s, depending on the day or the year. Okay. It also, I just have a few more things here. So it's going to also, creatine improves your cardiovascular fitness, which is awesome. And I'll explain why when we get to the mechanism of action. And then it promotes healthy skin. Okay, I take a scoop every day. My skin is great. It helps slow the aging process. And as I always say, when it comes to anything metabolic health, helps you look better naked, which, let's be honest, everyone wants that. So those are all the benefits that you get from creatine, which is awesome. And what I'm going to do, rather than read you a bunch of papers, because I have a list of a bunch of papers that I researched when I was putting this talk together before I turn this into this podcast episode. So I'm going to put those below the show. So if you want to do any more research, but just so you guys know what some of these titles are. So there's one from the Journal of International Society of Sports Nutrition from May of 2019. And it says creatine electrolyte supplement improves anaerobic power and strength. This was a randomized double-blind control study. There was one from February 2021. I think this was in that same journal. Common questions and misconceptions about creatine supplementation. What does the scientific evidence really show? Amazing. There was one in Nutrients in February of 2021 called Creatine in Health and Disease, and it goes into a lot of these benefits. There was one from February of 2016, Creatine for Women. I was particularly interested in this study, a review of the relationship between creatine and the reproductive cycle and female-specific benefits of creatine therapy. Huh? Like, hi, ladies. Are you listening yet? Okay. Then there was one in June of 2020, risk of adverse outcomes in females taking oral creatine monohydrate, a systematic review and meta-analysis. Spoiler alert, there are no risks for us, which is amazing. Creatine supplementation in women's health, a lifespan perspective, and that was from March of 2021. October of 2021, efficacy of creatine supplementation combined with resistance training on muscle strength and muscle mass in older females, a systematic review and meta-analysis. It's like, guys, there's so much science. When clients start working with me one-on-one, I send them one paper about creatine and just say, look, I'm recommending that you take this. And I should say, I recommend that you take it if you're over the age of 35. Okay. So if you're under the age of 35, I know there's a lot of kids. I have a lot of clients who are like, my son lifting in high school wants to get bigger, wants to take creatine. I'm like, look, I'm fine with that. I will tell you, he really doesn't need it. If we can get his diet in order and he's hydrated enough, he really doesn't need it. But if he wants to take it, I'm okay with that, assuming he's willing to drink a ton of water during the day. And I don't mean a real ton, but I mean a lot of water. And the reason for that is creatine is only effective when there's water present, when there's the molecules in water. Okay, it's H2O, remember, hydrogen, two hydrogen and oxygen. So we need that in terms of being able to turn creatine into the substrate that it makes, which is called ATP. And I'll explain that in a second. That's that whole mechanism of action I keep talking about. So the thing that I want you to hear in just this part after I've gone through all of those examples of papers is that creatine needs to be taken with water. We need to make sure that we're having water if we're having creatine. So, and of course, I left my water over there. So let me just grab it because I got to do that. And I'm thinking I have the camera set so it won't follow me. So hang on. Okay. So, I have this I have multiple of these every day. This is 24 ounces. So in the morning, I do the juice of one lemon. I do my Redmond's Relight electrolytes, and I do a few other powders and pills. I have a lot of supplements that I take, guys. Okay. Someday I'll do a whole episode about supplements because I know people have a lot of questions about them. Anyways, and then in my second bottle, I do creatine. The only reason I don't do it in my first is I have so much stuff in there that I do it in my second bottle with also some powdered vitamins and minerals. Okay, so I have it one of my first bottles in the morning, depending on when I'm lifting. So those are the things I want to tell you in terms of the papers, but I want to get into now when I was talking about the mechanism of action. And let me just turn to this part in my notes so that I have them in front of me. Forgive me, just bear with me 1 second. Okay. Perfect. So now I want to turn to, let's talk about what is creatine, okay? Because people hear it and they're like, yeah, it's a white powder that's odorless, tasteless, etc. But what is it? So first thing you should know, it truly is the most studied supplement in the world. And when I first heard that, I was like, is it really true? Should I just be saying that if I'm not certain about it? But I actually found research on it that explains it truly is the most studied supplement in the world. So we have a ton of research, not only proving its efficacy, but also its safety, which is so important. I wouldn't be doing a podcast episode recommending it if I didn't know and believe it was safe. So there's over 500 clinical research studies, and that's definitely more since the time that I wrote this. So it's exciting to know that there's that many. It's simply a short chain amino acid. Okay. So when we string a lot of amino acids together, longer than short chain, we're making a protein. Another certain amount of amino acids strung together are called peptides. Short chain amino acids, a short chain amino acid is creatine. So it's interesting because amino acids some are produced naturally by the body, and then some we have to get in supplementation. So there's 3 amino acids that comprise creatine, and they are arginine, glycine, and methionine. I just want to double check my notes on that. That is true. Arginine, glycine, and methionine. So creatine is used by the liver, by the pancreas, and the kidneys. So remember, guys, I just like to give demonstrations. Your pancreas is right here. It's on your left side, under your left boob, ladies. Your liver, by the way, is over here on your right side. Your pancreas and liver talk to each other a lot, but it's good to know that your pancreas is on your left and your liver is on your right. If you're ever having pains, if you're someone who tends to drink a lot of alcohol and you notice cramping in here from time to time, your liver is trying to talk to you. Sorry, not sorry. Your liver's trying to get your attention. So just know the liver's on the right, pancreas is on the left. Okay, and then your kidneys are, of course, kind of in the mid part of your back. They're like here in the mid part of your back, just right below your adrenal glands. Okay, and then your body naturally produces creatine, so that's good to know. So you're like, well, why would I take it? Well, the reason you would consider taking it is because, like all sorts of other things in the body, when we get over the age of 35 or over the age of 40, things start to go downhill. NAD is another supplement that starts to go downhill after the age of 35, 40, and I'll talk about NAD in a future show. I started doing NAD injections back in 2019. NAD stands for nicotinamide adenosine dinucleotide, and it's a really important molecule in our body that if you did not have it in your body, you would not be alive. It's that important. You'd be dead. Have to have NAD, okay? So I'll do a whole nother episode about NAD because that's another fascinating compound that I love. And I did a ton of research about it before I started injecting it into my body, of course. Okay. And so in addition to the fact that our body naturally produces creatine, oh yes, it's stored in our skeletal muscle. This is one of my favorite fun facts. You can store like 5 grams of creatine in every pound of lean muscle tissue on your body. So if I look at how much lean muscle tissue is in my biceps, there's a lot of creatine I can store in there. You know, I just take 5 grams of creatine a day, but there's new clinical research that's come out, especially if you're interested in the benefits in terms of brain health, cognitive function, anti-aging, all of that. You really might consider doing like 5 grams in the morning and 5 grams at night because creatine has so many benefits, which is incredible. Okay. Also, I already mentioned it starts to decrease after the age of 35. It's a very inexpensive supplement because it's so mass produced. It's very inexpensive. Now, I will say, like everything, I don't buy stuff. I wouldn't buy creatine at a holiday gas station. Okay. I'm not going to get it at the Quick Trip. I'm not saying that they don't have good brands there. I doubt they do, but you also want to be discerning about where you get your creatine. And so I'm going to tell you what creatine I use in just a minute. And then also, I said already, is a tasteless, odorless white powder. Okay. So after I said, what is creatine, I'm going to get into with you, where do we get it? So we get it really from meat, and more meat. So if you're a vegetarian or if you're a vegan, you better be taking creatine because you're not getting it because you don't eat meat. Okay. So if you are someone who ate a pound of red meat every day, if you're a full carnivore, or if red meat is really your thing and that's literally all you eat, you probably don't need to take creatine. Now, that would assume, however, that you're able to assimilate all of the amino acids from that meat that you ate, from the pound of meat that you ate, and that you have a perfect digestive system and your body's able to like absorb every single nutrient. Probably not true. You probably got gut issues like most Americans or most people around the world because lots of people have gut issues. So if that's true, you might consider taking some creatine supplementation anyways, at least if you're over the age of 35 or 40, or if you're really wanting the brain health benefits, even if you're a carnivore who eats only red meat. So we get it from meat. Beef is the best source of creatine. So there are 9.6 milligrams per gram of creatine in the dry weight of beef. So there's a lot, but again, you'd have to eat 1 pound of red meat per day in order to get the benefits of creatine. You also can get creatine from other sources of animal protein, but there's pretty much zero creatine in things like corn, potato, soybeans, wheat, rice, all those kinds of foods. You're not going to get creatine if that's the way you're eating. So that is why we want to make sure that we're taking it. So I want to tell you right now, because there's also a sponsor of the show. This is the brand I take. Let me see if I can get that by the camera, which is Kion. You guys may have seen this label before, Kion, Kion. Now, I've been taking this creatine for some time. I like several things about it. Number one, the most important reason I'm taking this is it is only, and I'm hoping you can see that here, forgive me with this Blair Witch Project video that I'm doing here. Here we go. Creatine monohydrate, 5 grams. And then as you can see, and I'm going to see if I can find this, I'm pretty sure it either says other ingredients none, or it doesn't need to because there aren't any. Yes, there's literally no other ingredients other than 1 scoop is 5 grams of creatine monohydrate. But you see right here under this where it says as Creapure with a registered trademark after it. So Creapure is a specific kind of registered, so it's got a registered trademark of creatine monohydrate. So Creapure is a specific kind of creatine monohydrate. And what I found with Creapure, there's other brands that use Creapure, but Kion is one of them. What I found with it is I don't get any digestive upset from taking this kind of creatine. Sometimes if I take creatine monohydrate from other brands that aren't Creapure, I'll just notice a little bit of bloating or like discomfort after I take it, especially if I have 5 grams of creatine in a very short amount of time. It's almost like my body can't digest it or absorb it that quickly. That is not true for me with Creapure, which is why I recommend the Kion brand, because that's what they use. This is also a very inexpensive supplement. So this is less than $20, and then you will get, oh, I just got a Zoom. I don't think I tried to do that. Hi, Zoom. Guys, this is so fancy. Okay. Thank you, camera. We're done Zooming. Thank you. I don't want them up in my nose the rest of the video. In any event, they're a sponsor. I love Kion. They're a fantastic company. They do a really, really good job of sourcing ethically. They have high quality ingredients. I love them. So I'll make sure I put a link down for you below. My code is always golden on most everything. Okay, so let's talk about how creatine actually works, because this I thought was really fun. And I want you to know this if you're going to take it, okay? So I always tell people when I give an example, and as you can see, it's just like a white, oh, this is the one that's not open. I have 2 of them here because I take it all the time. So as you can see, it's just like literally a white powder. So I always say, and I'm going to do a little demonstration for you just for dramatic effect. I'm like, what creatine does not do, creatine is not like, we're going to just sprinkle little pixie dust on our biceps and they're going to go bigger just because we put creatine on them. No, that's not how creatine works. Now, I will say that, believe it or not, creatine has been shown in the clinical literature to at least prevent you from losing muscle. It's not going to help you gain muscle. If you don't lift, you got to lift, then it'll help you gain muscle, but it's not going to help you gain muscle by just sprinkling it on your biceps and hoping that your biceps are going to grow. You have to also lift weights, guys, and lower weights, as I always talk about. I'll do a future podcast episode on that, of course. However, what it's doing is, if I'm in an exercise, and I'll just do, for example, I'll put this chair here. If I'm doing, let's say, a shoulder press, and I'm doing that because it just fits in the camera well, and I'm doing this, and I'm coming down, and I'm being very intentional and slow, and I've got a trainer, obviously at Discover Strength, who's watching me, and I'm doing this. At some point, after a certain number of reps, there's no way I can lift the weight anymore, right? Let's pretend I've got, not barbells here, but I've got a machine here. There's no way I can lift the weight anymore. If I'm taking creatine, the benefit is, if I normally would fail at, let's say, 8 reps, now because of this, I can get rep 9, rep 10, or maybe even rep 11. It's almost like the way I've described it when I started taking it and did my experiment. It's almost like it gave me an extra gear in the gym, okay? So now, where you used to fail at 8 reps, now you'll get more, and that's really where you get the benefit, because with those extra reps is what builds the extra muscle, helps you lose body fat, helps you gain lean muscle tissue, and gives you all of those other metabolic health benefits. So really what it's doing is that it's helping you rephosphorylate something called ATP, okay? ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate, and ATP is the energy currency of your body. You need it for everything that you do. Every single workout, taking the dishes out of the dishwasher. Like you need ATP, it's energy, okay? That is your energy currency. The problem with ATP is we can't store a ton of it in our bodies. We use it and we cycle through it. So what we can store a lot of in our bodies is creatine. Like I said earlier, you can store 5 grams of creatine in every 1 pound of lean muscle tissue in your body. Now, depending on the day, I've got anywhere between 110 and 114 pounds of lean muscle tissue. That's probably and bone, because that's both on my bod pod, my DEXA scan. So that's how much muscle. That doesn't include my fat pounds, but that's how much muscle that I have in my body. So I can store a ton of creatine in my body. And what that means is my body is able to then, when I'm in a tough workout and I need more ATP because I'm running out, your body can rephosphorylate ATP on demand from ADP, okay? ADP is adenosine diphosphate. Di means 2, tri means 3. It's not hard. Guys, this is I'm making it as simple as possible. So adenosine diphosphate is 2 of these phosphate groups. Adenosine triphosphate is 3, and ATP, adenosine triphosphate, is what we need for energy. All creatine is doing is attaching on to an ADP molecule and rephosphorylating it into ATP, and that way you have more energy. So I just love knowing that, because I was like, it's one thing to put this in my water every day. It's another thing to put it in my water every day, knowing that it's going to give me an extra gear at the gym. So when I started taking it, and I'll tell you about my experiment in a second, because I know this is already getting rather long. I was taking it always before I went to the gym in the morning. So super early, and I put it in my water. I put it in my water before I went to the gym because I was like, well, I want to have more creatine for during my workout. And then I came across some research that said you're actually better off taking it after you get back from the gym, like right after your workout. And here's my thing on it. Who cares? You can take it before the gym. You can take it during your workout. You can take it after your workout. Just take it. Then you're getting it in your body. So I don't think the timing of if you take it before or after I really don't think that's going to make the difference in it, because I was taking it before, and I'll tell you about my results in a second, like I said. So let me just see if there was anything in my notes. Adds on a different phosphate group. Yeah, so I guess I should say this also, which I've sort of said, but I want to use this term. So the myocytes in your muscles, okay, they need ATP to move. So if I'm going to do a bicep curl like this, I am using ATP to tighten that muscle and to make it move. So that's just another component of this, because that, again, creatine is being used to create more ATP in your body. Okay. And then that's interesting. I forgot about this fact. This is amazing. So in addition to the fact that I always say it's like a battery pack on your muscles, it's like giving your muscles an extra gear. In a May 2019 study, which I'll link below, it found that there was a 5.9% increase versus placebo of 0.7%. Okay, so 5.9 versus less than 1%, just 0.7% increase in bench press maximal strength after taking creatine. And you guys, I would say anecdotally, just by way of my own example, for sure that was true. And I'm going to show you my before and afters because I want you to see these when I get to these slides. Okay. The other thing to note, and I will also shout these guys out because they sponsor as well. My friend Mike Mutzel, who owns High Intensity Health, he also owns a company called Myoscience, and they make Myoscience creatine with electrolytes in them. I actually bring those with me when I travel because he has amazing stick packs. And so it has creatine in the stick pack. It has electrolytes where he uses Redmond's Real Salt, of course, because he knows they're the best. Redmond's is the best. And then he also adds taurine. And taurine is a supplement I also take in a pill form in the morning. And so pairing creatine with electrolytes, like putting creatine in your bottle with your electrolytes, is amazing because creatine works better if it's paired with electrolytes in your muscle. Keep in mind, you guys, that when you're strength training, when you're engaging your muscles, if you're running, whatever you're doing where you're using your muscles, you're creating electrical charges all of the time. Electrolytes are for the electrical charges in your body for doing things like exercise. So very exciting. I love helping people understand that electrolytes help with electricity in your body and that muscles are really, you're creating an electrical charge, which is so fun. Okay. So I think I got all of that. Yes. So I wanted to make sure I shared about how creatine works just so you can understand. And hopefully that explanation was simple enough that it makes sense. I have a few other notes here. Let me just read on those to see. Yeah, this was just a quote from one of the papers I read that just said, I'm just going to read this just in case this is helpful. The continual supply of ATP to the fundamental cellular processes that underpin skeletal muscle contraction, okay, during exercise is essential for sports performance in events lasting seconds to several hours. So what does that mean? The continual supply of ATP. Remember, we don't have a lot of ATP that we can store. We have to continuously supply it. And the way that we can do that is to be able to make it from ADP on the fly during the exercise from having stored creatine. So that's really what it's doing, is it's giving us more energy, which is amazing. Yes, and then I wrote down muscle stores of ATP are small. I already told you that. Needs to constantly remake ATP. I already said that. Okay. Yeah, this is amazing. Okay. I love when I don't have to look at my notes a bunch because, you know, it's just fun when you don't have to. Okay. So before I get into my experiment, I am going to just briefly tell you, okay, and then I'll talk about my experiment. These are my favorite creatine myths, and I've already talked about them or hinted at some of them throughout the course of this show, but I want to share these with you because I do think these are so funny. So one of my favorite creatine myths is that like I already told you, it makes you retain water, okay? This was true in the creatine of the old days. I think it's because they were adding dextrose. That's not true anymore. Now, I will say, if you are someone who intuitively feels like, Kristen, I heard you. I heard that you said it doesn't make me retain water, but I feel like it makes me retain water. I'm taking it and I feel like it makes me retain water. Then don't take it. You may be having an experience with creatine where you either don't need it or it actually does make you retain water. I actually have a friend here in Nashville who she told me that was true for her. She's like, I started taking it and I just felt thicker and I felt like I was really retaining a lot of water. It's almost like she was always PMSy. And so she stopped taking it. Now, she's just over the age of 35. So it's like, if you're just over the age of 35, she may not need it yet. You know, I'm older than that. I'm 48 at the time of this recording. And so I need it because my creatine stores have gone down so much as I've aged to this age. So that's why I just say, follow your intuition with that. If you feel like it's making you feel bloated or puffy or whatever, use your intuition. Now, I will say it could for you make a little bit of difference on a scale, because if there's any water retention, where it's happening is in the belly of the muscle. It's not making you have like real puffy face or puffy. It's happening in the belly of the muscle, but follow your intuition on that. If for some reason you feel like, no, it really is making me retain water, then just don't have it. Okay. Another favorite creatine myth is that it damages your kidneys. There is zero evidence to support that claim. That claim is often made about protein as well. Also just not true. And it drives me insane. I already covered this one because I sprinkled creatine on my bicep to make a point, and I'm like stepping on white stuff on my floor now, which is annoying, but it doesn't magically make your muscles grow. You have to also lift weights, of course, in conjunction with creatine. Some people think creatine is a protein replacement. Not true. That's another one of my favorite myths. Some people think, and I've heard this so many times, that creatine causes hair loss. No, guys, at the time of this recording, it's 2025. I've been taking it since 2021. I have no extensions. I never have. My hair girl in Minnesota likes to say I have the longest, strongest, real blonde hair in the Twin Cities, which cracks me up. She always says that. And hair is protein. I eat a ton of protein. I have great hair because I eat protein. I shouldn't say I have great hair. That sounds conceited. That's not what I meant. I have a lot of hair. That's, I guess, what I meant to say. Whatever. You know what I'm saying. It doesn't cause hair loss is my point. There's no evidence around that for creatine. Okay. Creatine is only for gym bros. That's another one of my favorite myths. No, I have my parents taking it. It's not gym bros. This isn't like the guy at the gym grunting, dropping all the weights and staring at his biceps in the mirror all day. It's not just for that guy. A lot of people think creatine is an anabolic steroid. This is something I thought too. Not true. And I, by the way, going back to that quick story I shared at the beginning, I get tested because I'm a natural professional bodybuilder. I have to get a lie detector test. I have to do a urine test after I win. So I was like, I can't take creatine for the steroid. So that's literally why I didn't take it. I thought it was an anabolic steroid. And I just laughed because it probably would have given me such an edge, but I'm probably competing against a million girls who were on creatine, but it's fine. I still won, so I don't care. Okay. Oh, here's another one. I'm just looking at my notes. Another creatine myth. It causes you to grow facial hair. No, it doesn't cause you to grow facial hair. That's not true. It's an androgen. So like it's kind of a male hormone. Also not true. It's a substitute for other healthy habits. No. And in fact, one of the most important ones that I tell everyone, you've got to still drink water. You have to drink a lot of water when you have creatine. And then people say it causes changes in female genitalia. That just kills me. You guys, all of these myths really are because creatine has for so many years been conflated with steroids. Some of these things you is steroids. So just stay away from steroids and you'll be fine. Okay. So let me tell you guys about my personal creatine experiment because I was really excited about this and I was frankly very surprised. And I'm going to share my results here in the video so that you can actually see them. So I had been doing, at the time of my experiment, this was in 2021, and this experiment was from May to August. I had been doing bod pods since 2009, okay? Keep in mind, I started lifting. I was a very early adopter. I started lifting at Discover Strength in November of 2007. In 2009, they did their first body comp challenge, and I was like, I want to do that. So we went over to the University of Minnesota. That was the only bod pod they had at the time. Now Discover Strength, they have a bod pod. They've had one for a number of years now. We got a bod pod at the University of Minnesota, did a competition, not competition, but did like a challenge in terms of just harder workouts, et cetera, for a month, and then did another bod pod. And I remember during that thinking, wow, my first bod pod, my body fat was 16.9 in 2009. And by the end of the 1 month challenge, I went down to like 16.1. I was so excited that I lost like a percentage of body fat in a month, pretty much. And then my muscle went up a little bit. So I was like, well, this is really cool. So fast forward to 2021, and I was like, I'm going to do this Creatine experiment. But by this time, I had been starting to get DEXA scans. I get bod pods and I get DEXA scans, depending on what's available. But I started to get DEXA scans in my 40s because I really wanted to see my bone density and my visceral fat, because those numbers become more important. And shout out to my friends at DEXA Fit Edina in Minnesota. I really, really like their facility. DEXA Fit is a franchise around the country, and they make it very easy to get a DEXA scan. So if you've never had a DEXA scan, I recommend, if you're in the Minnesota area, to go to DEXA Fit Edina. If you're not in the Minnesota area, go to DEXA Fit around your country. And here in Nashville, there's a couple different places that I found so far that I need to try so that I can find out what the best one is so that I can recommend one here. But really, DEXA Fit is the one that I've recommended to clients around the country. And then there's also, I just have to think of the name of it. Oh God, I'll think of it. I'll put it under the video. I can't think of it, but I will. I will put it under the video for you because it's another franchise. It's mostly only on the West Coast and kind of south, but it's another chain that you can go to and get a DEXA scan. Okay. So for my personal creatine experiment, I'd done all these bod pods since 2009, but I had gotten older. I wanted to try creatine. I wanted to see if I could have an increase in the muscle tissue, a decrease in body fat, an increase in bone density, and I saw all of that. So I used creatine monohydrate, and these were my results, you guys. I'm going to just move so we can have those here. So on May 17th of 2021, my body fat was 16.9%. When I walked in and got my first DEXA scan, it was 16.9%. And I had 23.4 pounds of, 23.4 pounds of fat on my body. That's what that means, 23.4 pounds of fat. And then on August 27th of 2021, so this was 3 months later, 3 months and 10 days actually, June, July, August, yes, my body fat went down to 15.2%. So all I did in that 3 month period is take 1 scoop of creatine. Also, what was amazing is my muscle went up. So my lean mass per the DEXA scan when we started on May 17th of 2021 was 110 pounds. I gained 3 pounds of muscle mass by August 27th. It went from 110 pounds up to 113 pounds, which is excellent in that short amount of time. So I was really, really proud of that. Here's what I was also really excited about, okay? Look how well I did with my visceral fat. My visceral fat went down from 0.6 pounds down to 0.11 pounds. It's almost virtually gone. You want your visceral fat to be as low as possible. It's safe and healthy if it's under 1 pound. So I was already good at 0.6, but look how much I lost just adding creatine. I was so excited about that, you guys. That is huge. So just as a reminder, visceral fat is the fat that we can't see. It's the fat around our organs, okay? So I couldn't see it here if I wanted to show you. It's inside. It's in between your organs, and it's the most dangerous kind of fat that you have. I have had people hire me when they get their first DEXA scan and they have 4 pounds of visceral fat, 6 pounds of visceral fat, 7 pounds of visceral fat or more. And I'm like, we have got to get your metabolic health under control because this is very dangerous, specifically for cardiovascular risk. So if you haven't had a DEXA scan yet, please go and get one. And by the way, before you get one, I should say this. Some people say, okay, well, my doctor will provide a prescription and I can go get one at my medical clinic. Maybe that's good, but you have to call them and ask, okay, is this a DEXA scan that offers visceral fat numbers and body fat? Some DEXA scans are just bone density. And my clients have had to learn that the hard way. They'll get the DEXA scan and they'll send it to me. And I'm like, no. This doesn't have any of the information I need. I need your visceral fat and I need your body composition, including your fat mass and your muscle mass. And they're like, oh, my doctor said this is the DEXA scan they have and it's only bone density. So please, please, please make sure you get one with visceral fat and muscle mass. Okay. The other thing that was freaking amazing is my bone density went up. Okay, so my T-score in May of 2021 was 1.5. It went up to 1.6 in August of 2021. And I just say that the highest I've seen my T-score was when I got ready for my first bodybuilding show, and I gained 7 pounds of muscle and lost 5% body fat in a period of less than 2 months. It was insane, but I was eating 200 grams of protein a day, getting ready for that bodybuilding show. It was a lot. And I was eating 6 times a day also, which was also intense. And my T-score at that time was 2.0. So my bone density has been as high as 2.0, but look at what a difference it made just taking creatine. And I'm going to do another DEXA scan soon. I do them regularly, but I wanted to show you this because all of this stuff was my creatine experiment. So of course, I got an A+ on my DEXA. I think that's typically what I usually get, but I thought that it would be fun to show you that because I got a 97 in terms of my longevity score. And I just found that was so exciting. So I am so hoping that you liked this show. Girls, you didn't make an appearance on the show yet. I think they want to see you more than they want to see me. Okay, the girls were kind of, do you want to say hi? Oh my gosh, Maeve got all scared. I have to show you this. Okay, let's bring the camera over here. You can see the girls. It's so hot outside today, you guys. Girls, there they are. Do you feel? Guys, is there anything cuter than 3 golden retrievers? Girls, you got us to be so cute. Oh my gosh, I can't. Aren't they adorable? They're just sitting on the couch being so cute. Okay. I was like, they're really the reason you're here. So I should have had you all in the video because you look so cute right now and I can't even stand it. So I'll make sure that they make a better appearance in a future show. I hope that you liked this about creatine. Again, Kion is our sponsor today. They're absolutely amazing. I love them so much. And I'll come back with future shows about all sorts of different topics. So make sure you always comment, send emails to my team, just get in touch with us. You can DM me on Instagram, get in touch with us in any way, just to let us know what you want to hear about, and I will create a show for you about it. Thank you for being here. I love you. I appreciate you. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks.